Film, a most beautiful inconvenience. I guess that's every good thing in life, right? I like the depth and warmth of film. Shit feels classic. Mirrorless cameras just can't replicate it. But what's the trade-off? Award-winning DPs say give it a try.
To all aspiring filmmakers out there, I would like to say, please try shooting that incredible new hip thing called celluloid.
Others say don't even waste your time. Why? It damn sure ain't the warm, rich and grainy texture it gives the image. Nah, it's the sky-high prices of film stock, storage and development cost the crew it takes to operate. Don't even mention the learning curve. This all makes it seem impossible for mirrorless shooters to come close to the soul and emotion of film. Or is it? Imagine that most of us digital shooters are achieving the film look in post, and we're doing that with third-party plugins. One of the plugins that I've been hearing about ever since I started editing is Dehancer. And now they have Dehancer Pro. It's on everything, Premiere, DaVinci. They even have like a standalone online version of that. So you can take your clips from, I guess, whatever you shoot on, upload it to the internet and color it there. Like, they have so many different options. There's even an iOS mobile version of Dehancer. So there's a lot going on here, especially with film emulation. They reached out to me and asked me to do a trial to see how I liked Dehancer in my videography workflow and to offer some insight and input on future improvements, which I thought was interesting. So just so happens that at the time they reached out, I had a bunch of work lined up. So I was able to use Dehancer to color just about all of that work. And I'm going to use a project that I recently did on a local boxer was making his pro debut, pretty big in the community. And this was like a big deal for his group of people, man, his clan. So I got a chance to capture his training camp and also his pro debut. So I'm gonna take a clip from the interview section of the training portion and some of the fight footage to see how I use Dehancer to color that. So let's dive right into that. This is my basic node tree, you know, white balance, noise reduction, exposure, contrast, curves, skin qualifier, and, you know, however I convert this footage. And when I use Dehancer, I convert inside of Dehancer. I don't use color space transform. I do it all in there because for some reason, maybe I'm doing something wrong, and that's quite possibly what it is. It just comes out better that way. It just looks better to me when I'm using Dehancer to use the in-plugin camera profiles. And I'm shooting this on a FX30. They have S-Log, S-Gamut. It converted it well. So then from there, you have your exposure compensation and all those different things. Temperature, tint, defringe radius. I don't have any defringing on this image, so I didn't necessarily need that enabled. And really, I just wanted to pump up the exposure just a little bit. I did a little contrast work on this node, but nothing crazy. Now, to me, this is where Dehancer comes alive, and that's film stocks or film profiles. There's like a shit ton of film profiles in here. ADOX, Agfa, Fuji Eterna, which is like really popular. All the Kodak, Vision 3, Vision, just everything, anything you really can think of is here, man. There's so many film stocks, even shit that's just for like photography, but they do have a photography app and an iOS app for Dehancer. So check those out also. But for this, like, man, I just chose Kodak Ektachrome. What is it? E100 2017. And usually you get different colors out of some of these film stocks with the push and pull. This one is just really an exposure thing. So I kind of lowered it or pushed it a little bit as opposed to pulling. Well, yeah. So film developer is really just kind of like the contrast, gamma, you know, all those different things. So I didn't need any color boost or color separation. I did run a little gamma on some of those highlights because he has those lights surrounding his head. When I used the gamma correction, it kind of like toned the effect of that down just a little bit. Then I raised the contrast just some. That's a little too much right there, but just some. This ain't really necessarily dark and moody, so we don't need a bunch of contrast. Then we go to film compression, and there's something that I didn't really necessarily use much when I used this plugin, but what it did was when I find that white point and then move the tonal range, that helped those lights in the background, that bokeh, kind of like subside a little bit. I thought it was a little too dominant, and that kind of brought it down quite a bit. It compressed it. Did exactly what it said it was going to do, and that's something I can appreciate because I use a lot of natural lights. I try to find what's there for me to use in a lot of scenarios because sometimes there's not a choice to just set up a bunch of lights and do a bunch of things, but with this, it was one of those scenarios we had to use the lighting that was there, and these lights were behind him, and I thought it kind of like looked like a little crown, so I thought it was cool, but they were dominant, so I was able to tone that down with some of the film compression. Now, the expand is exactly what it is. You have normal and luma, and I'm gonna say luma probably affects the luminance, the brightness of it. So this is on luma, you know, black point, white point, obviously, highlights, bring that down some. Now, print is where you really can make some of the things you're doing stand out. I have this on Kodak 2383 print film. It's just what I liked at the time. But if I change it to the Fujifilm, you see that kind of brought in some like green tint to the footage. Then you have the glossy paper, which, you know, added some contrast. Overall, kind of darkened the image. Cineon film log is exactly what it is. That's the film log they use to, you know, convert footage to whatever film stock they're trying to use. I'm gonna stick with the Fujifilm. I think that looks best for what I'm trying to do. You can adjust the target white, the exposure, tonal contrast is just huge on this plug. I love it. And this is where I can lock in on some of that color density. I feel like what this does is a lot better and a lot more subtle than it is in other parts of this plugin, especially the color head, which you can go crazy and also ruin some footage. But you know, this is adding cool tones or warm tones to the shadows, midtones, or highlights. And as you can see here, I added more cool tones to the highlights and more warm tones to the shadows and the midtones. Not much though, small nudges. And then you kind of can adjust the impact, which I like on everything. You need to put the impact slider on every, well, which one you can? I'm pretty sure you can't put it on print, and I'm pretty sure that you can't put it on a couple of these other ones, but I'm almost certain, I'm not a developer, that you can put this on film grain, right? Because this amount slider is this isn't it, because even when you take it down, right, it's all the way on 0. If we take this full screen, it's still there. There's still film grain. That's not the image. Like if I take this off completely, because I have noise reduction on here, so if I disable it, it's gone. The image is clean, right? Go back, enable it, and it's on 0, and there's film grain. There's quite a bit of film grain, even on 0. So maybe that's something that they can absolutely, without a doubt, improve on, is maybe put an impact slider there to where you kind of can, you know, what's the word I want to use? Maybe you can kind of overlay it, you know what I'm saying? And use like opacity to kind of ease up on it. It's very aggressive, like probably the most aggressive grain I've seen in any plugin, but it's really good grain. It's really natural looking grain. So it's not really a problem, but it would be nice to kind of, you know, add, it's like I want to have it, but I don't want it as much as they're giving it to me. Pause, like that kind of thing. So the grain, a little aggressive. And from there you get into like halation. You know, halation is something I used in this film, but I wouldn't use this all the time. It adds the yellow halos around like highlights and, you know, bright highlights. And it's cool sometimes. You got mask mode. You see, I didn't use a lot of it. And it's very, very generous when I use it. But if you go to custom, you kind of can, and I'm trying to get it to where you can see it. but you can really dial this in if you want to. Me personally, not that big of a deal for me. It's probably better in this plugin than it is in other places. I know that DaVinci has their own halation, so there's that, but not something I'm big on. But I am big on bloom, because a lot of us use diffusion or some type of filter to get that in camera, but for some people it's just too much. I had a client tell me, like, please don't ever use that shit again on my footage. And I was like, damn, my apologies. It probably wasn't right for that project. And it's not right for every project. Some people like that pristine, clean image. You know, they want the 6K or down sample 6K. So what this does, it gives you the option, and I like that. And it's not super aggressive, not nearly half as aggressive as the film grain. So, you know, the bloom is really good here. Now, this is where we get into making something really look like film. So for that, I'm gonna go to another clip. I'm gonna go to a clip of the actual fight, because we have a lot of footage here. I'm trying to go to a part where, man, this kid got decked, man. He got the snot beat out of him. This is a really good shot. I was very impressed that I caught this in action, because, man, sheesh. That's beautiful. Now, because this is emotions, kind of hard to kind of get them still, but we're going to stop it right there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add an overscan, and that's like the perforation you always see on things that supposedly looks like film. So when we enable this is a Super 35 aspect ratio 1:37:1. So you have Super 8, standard 60 millimeter. You have so many different options. So let's go with like Super 8, since, you know, we're always talking about Super 8 stuff. Now we're going to make this look as dingy as possible. We're going to really de-hance this footage, right? So first off, I wanted the gate to be defocused, you know, because if it's old, it's not in focus. So we're really going to dial that in, brighten it up a little bit. Now, negative or positive? Yeah, we're going with negative. That looks cooler. Neat normal, neat sharp, neat rounded. Oh, that made it even more rounded. Okay, let's keep it neat normal for this one. Now, add some gate weave, right? And that's going to make like the overscan kind of like shake a little bit. You feel what I'm saying? Because it's taking that Super 8 gate and adding some movement to it, like it's actually being ran through a projector. So, boom, we have that. Film breath, that's going to make it breathe or look like it's breathing as it's moving. The film is moving. And film damage, we're going to crank that up, because we want it to look like, you know, this is like been sitting in a tin in Hollywood and we just found it. So the big thing, we got to put the bloom in there. I messed up. The bloom is definitely in there and it's popping. So look at that. That looked like the first Rocky. All right, don't look like the first Rocky, but it looks damn good, right? We have halation. We're going to crank that up some. And now the coup de grace. 8 millimeter film grain, cranked to the max. Look at that. Come on, guys. And that right there is what, to me, makes Dehancer special. Now, I know this is not something you can use all the time. Sure, right? Of course. I wouldn't say use it all the time. But I have come across projects that people really like the warm film look. They just do. Especially black people. We love the sepia and the browns. We love those tones. So anytime I present that warm film look to those clients, they love it, man. They're in love with it. And then if I could take memories or aspects of their story and make it look like it came from the past without another plugin, and still do the coloring and adjusting and all those things inside of that one Dehancer Pro plugin, is good money to me. You know, I do documentaries. I use archival footage. This is perfect for me. For my workflow, between being easy to use for quick turnarounds, having a plethora of options, so I really kind of can harness a look or really dial in a look, on top of all the things that DaVinci Resolve already have in it and are adding to it on what feels like a daily basis. it really just takes that workflow and enhances it tenfold. So, you know, the fact that I'm able to do this in plugin for any clip that I have on here and make it look like this looks old. Like, it looks dehanced in a good way that doesn't quite fully resemble something coming off film, but digitally it's damn close. It does cost $450, and that might be steep for some people. So you have to understand that it's really dependent on where you are in your journey. For me, for paid clients, it's good, it's great. You know, people are really happy with the turnout from these products. I haven't had one, well, obviously my editing and all those things have to be on point too, but never a revision or anything. Like, people are just happy first time out, and it was fairly easy to do with Dehancer Pro. So for me, it's worth it. And there's other plugins, other film emulation plugins, and do your research. But for me, yeah, this ticks all the boxes. So I'm gonna come back with a video talking about how I use Dehancer to color that footage, because they just dropped a camera profile for the Osmo Pocket 3. And if anybody know anything about D-Log-M, they know that's a big deal. So I'll be back with that one, and I appreciate everybody that stopped through. Shout out to Dehancer for reaching out to me, getting with the kid, giving me the trial so I can try it out with this product, with this project, and making these clients happy. So I'll catch you on the next one. In the meantime, between time, y'all stay cool while y'all stay cool. I'm up out of here. Love you more.